Thanks for joining me. This is Danny, and welcome to my Chisels and Bits mini-series, in which we are going to be taking a close look at the Chisels and Bits mod and all of the wonderful things that we can do with it, starting in this first episode covering the basics of Chisels and Bits and how it works and how the tools work and how we can basically do whatever we want with it. So by the end of this first episode, you will have the knowledge to unleash your creativity with Chisels and Bits. And then in the next episode, we're going to take a look at flat colored blocks real briefly. And after that, we're going to look at some specific builds that I've done and some specific techniques that I use with Chisels and Bits so that you can kind of get an idea of how I put together the builds that I put together. And then I would like to take a look at some other people's builds, probably starting with some of the builds on our subscriber multiplayer server, and perhaps even your build if you're interested in having it showcased, which we'll talk about at the end of the episode and also in the description. To start out today, we're going to head over here where I've kind of started building this really ugly doghouse, and I'm kind of modeling it after this house that I've done over here. And in the process of building this doghouse, we're going to take a look at all of the Chisels and Bits tools that we have available to us, and then of course, we'll bring the dog over here. Our lonely dog who's been sitting in the road over here for the longest time now. He'll have his own little house. So the first tool that we're going to take a look at is the chisel, of course. Not to be confused with the chisel from the chisel mod. This is the Chisels and Bits chisel, of course, which is going to allow us to chisel bits from blocks in the world. This is the most basic and fundamental tool of the Chisels and Bits mod. And there are 4 different types of chisels, and they're in the standard Minecraft tiers. So we have stone, iron, gold, and diamond. And of course, we can only chisel things that we would normally be able to break with that level of tools. So if we have a stone chisel, we're not going to be able to chisel obsidian. Each block has 16 by 16 by 16 bits in it. And each one of those bits can be taken out by the chisel. So we can make this thing any shape we want it to be, for starters. And as you can see, we end up with these little bits in our inventory. So we chiseled out 8 bits from this block, and we now have 8 bits in our inventory. And if we hold down the shift key, we can see what the full block looks like. And then we could also take some of these bits out if we wanted to, and then we'll have, of course, the stone bits. And then if we want to, we can put these stone bricks in our hand and right click to place them. So as you can see, we can mix blocks together. We can do all kinds of stuff with these. And if we look at the one probe, we can see that this is now a chiseled wood yellow stain planks block, as opposed to this, which is just yellow stain planks. While we're holding a bit in our hand, we can chisel as long as we have a chisel in our inventory, and it will take durability from that chisel. So I can take this block, and if I left click, it's basically going to act like I'm using a chisel, which is really nice. If you're placing bits and removing bits, you don't have to keep switching between the chisel and the bits that you're using. Also see that if we reassemble this block, and if we look at the one probe again up here, right now it's saying this is a chiseled bit yellow stain plank. We put that back in there, and now it's a yellow stain plank. So it does turn the block back into what it originally was if we reassemble it. So that's the basic functionality of the chisel. If we hold down the Alt key, we can see that we have lots of other modes that we can chisel in. So right now we were chiseling just single bits, but we can also chisel lines. So let's say we want to chisel out an entire line here, and it's going to go in the direction of the block side that we're facing. So that takes out the entire line of bits, all 16 of them. So another mode we have is a plane. This basically removes an entire plane from a bit or from a block. So like that. It removes that entire plane, so all 16 by 16 bits. So 16 times 16, we're actually removing 256 bits every time we do this, and oh, what happened? Our inventory just got full. Almost. Because we have all these bits in our inventory. There's a solution for that, because each block, if we do the math, 16 times 16 times 16 is 4,096. So that means that each block has 4,096 bits. As you can imagine, if you're working with Chisels and Bits quite a bit, you are going to end up filling up your inventory very, very quickly. Fortunately, we have this Chiseled Bit Bag to remedy that problem for us. And what this will do, I already have a lot of bits in here, is it will store a whole bunch of bits for us By default, it will store 512 bits per stack, which means that one block will take up 8 stacks. In all of my mod packs, I change this to 4096 so that we can store a full block in each slot. So then we also have this thing called a connected plane, and basically what that will do is it will, instead of breaking away an entire plane like the plane did, it will only break a plane of bits that are connected. So for instance, remember before we took this block and we cut out a bunch of lines in a diagonal. If we chisel this one away, you can see that it didn't do the entire plane. It only did the connected plane. So in that way, we can actually end up making a slope. Okay, then we have connected material. So let's say, for instance, we have a block that has different materials in it. So let's, for instance, place down one of these yellow stained clays, or one of these yellow stained bricks, get a couple of planes out of it, and then we'll take our stone chisel bits and maybe set some planes or connected planes, whatever. Like so. So now if we go up here and we cut away a connected plane, it's only going to take, we do a connected material, it's only going to take that part of the matching material. And then the drawn region allows us to basically place or remove bits in a region that we draw in. So we click on one end, hold down the mouse button, the left mouse button, and then we end up breaking out that whole area, and then we can do the same in reverse. So if we right click, we can place, and of course we could also do a connected material or connected plane here to fill that area in as well. One of the things I like to do with the drawn region is to do things like trim, like what I've got around the windows and stuff. So we can like go drawn region, and we can right click down there and then come up here like so. And there we go. We got a little trim around the doghouse door. And then same material, we'll basically chisel away the entire area of the same material. So this is one block right here. This is one block that is made of 2 different materials. We can actually even pick it up as a block. We can place it somewhere else. But if we want to get rid of all of if we want to get rid of all the yellow stained plank on this, we can go to same material, left click, and boom, there we go. There's 3 different size cubes. We've got a small cube, which is that. We've got a medium cube, which is that. And then we have a large cube, which is that. And then we have the snapped versions of all 3 of those, which basically will snap to the block grid. You can see that it'll only let us place this in certain places. And if we do make a mistake, there's an undo command. Isn't that nice? Don't you wish that every mod tool had that? So let's say we want to do this whole dog house, or maybe even a really big house like this, with lots and lots of chisels and bits, chisels and bits for details and slopes and all kinds of crazy stuff. Obviously, we're not going to want to chisel every single one of these blocks because that would take forever, right? So we have these wonderful things called designs. These positive chisel design, a negative chisel design, and a mirror chisel design. These basically allow us to save different patterns. So the positive chisel design basically allows us to save a pattern and place it somewhere else. So for instance, let's say we want to take this slope. We can just right click on it with an empty positive chisel design, and now if we hold down shift, we can see that we have a pattern here that looks like that. So if we come over here and we right click on this, you can see that it makes that pattern for us. So it basically chiseled out the blocks, or chiseled out the bits to take away that stuff. It put them in our bit bag. Of course, if we didn't have the bit bag, it would put them in our inventory. And it used bits from our bit bag in order to add whatever bits it needed to add. By default, we're going to be in replace mode. So it's basically going to replace whatever block we point at. If we want to place blocks, again, you hold down the Alt key. Assuming that we have enough bits in our inventory, we can place blocks by using the placement mode, and that will place them. Hooray! And of course, we can place as many as we want. Again, we have the undo command if we accidentally place it in the wrong place, or if we accidentally replace a block that we didn't want to replace. Say we want a corner, like something that we have here. what additive will do is it will basically allow us to place this in the same block as something else, and it will not remove or change any of the existing bits. It will only add bits where they aren't there already. So we do that, and we end up kind of getting that corner that we had up there. Impose is similar, except that it will replace existing bits. So if we impose over here, let's see what this looks like now. So you can see we've got brick on this side, we've got white on this side, and again, if we just place this in the world, we can see that it's white over there. So if we impose, it's going to replace the bits that it needs to in order to set that pattern. So if we look over here, we can see that we've got the white there. The difference between impose and additive is that impose will replace bits where additive won't. It will only add bits. If we want to reuse the design for something else, we can put it in a crafting grid, and we end up with our blank thing again. And actually what's really cool is you can take the pattern of a full block. So we now have a pattern in here, or in our chisel design, that represents the entire yellow stained plank block. So we could just replace that block with a yellow stained plank block. Or we could use that if we had a ton of... What I like to use this for is if I have a ton of something in my bit bag that I want to get rid of, I can just make full blocks out of them and just place them in the world. Actually, I don't have enough to make a full block, but if I did, then I could do that and it would clean up my inventory. We have a negative chisel design and we have a mirror chisel design. A negative chisel design will allow us to take the shape of a pattern, like for instance, let's just take this slope again. And oh, actually that's not a slope, that's just like a sliver. And it will allow us to apply it to any block in the world. So let's say we want a yellow stained plank with that same shape. So we can take this thing and all it will do is take bits away. It will not add any bits, it will only take them away. So there we have it. There's our little slope in a different pattern. If we then go this way, you'll see that we end up with this kind of weird pattern because it only takes bits away, it will never add bits. Say we take one of these slopes over here. We can use it to do something like this, and then if we go this way, we get a corner. The mirror chisel design allows us to flip patterns in the opposite direction. So for instance, if we wanted to put this particular slope on the other side of the house, if we take our positive chisel design and we try to place this like that, and then place another one over here, you can see that the sides aren't going to match up, right? Because they're facing in opposite directions. And there's really no way we can hold down the shift key and use our mouse button to rotate these things. But even rotating it, obviously, is not going to get us, we can rotate it all the way around, but we're going to be looking at the other side of the face. So if we want to flip this thing, so let's say we get rid of this one over here, and we can take our mirror chisel design, and whatever side we click on, it's going to flip the pattern in that direction. So I click over here, and I now have a pattern facing in the other direction. So I can put that in a crafting grid with an empty positive chisel design to get a positive chisel design that's mirrored from that one. So if we place this now, we can see that it now is facing the direction that we want it to be facing, so that the sides are symmetrical to each other. One little trick with the positive chisel design is that if you place it in a crafting grid with a bit bag, or a bunch of bits, assuming that you have enough bits to cover the chisel design, it will take the bits that it needs from the bit bag and allow you to craft the blocks matching the pattern. So if you're doing a big build with a whole bunch of the same kind of block, like like one of these slopes, rather than having to use your positive chisel design to try to match up everything and do that, you can just get the blocks ready and just place them like you would any other block in Minecraft. When you break a chiseled block, the orientation is going to be based on which side you were facing when you placed it. So we place all these blocks are exactly the same, right? And they stack. But let's say I go over here and break this one. It doesn't stack, right? Because it's facing in a different direction. We can fix that. If we put it in a crafting grid, it'll basically normalize the direction. It'll remove the direction details. So we can do that. If we do that with all the blocks, they will all be then facing the same direction, and then they will all stack. You can also hold shift and mouse wheel to change the orientation of the blocks. And then they don't stack. So as soon as you give it some direction information, it no longer stacks. So then we'll have to put it back in a crafting grid in order to get them to stack again. Another way that we can mass craft some simple blocks is using the diamond bit saw. So if you've ever used microblocks in 1.7.10, this is going to act very similar to that. So it's basically going to cut the block in half and give us 2 slabs of whatever block we're putting in there. If we put it down here, then they're going to be horizontal slabs. If we put them over here, then they're going to be vertical slabs. And if we take those, we can then cut them again and get even thinner slabs. So now we've got quarter slabs, or we can put them over here to get something like that. So we could get like pillars from this, or we could just get some really thin slabs, and we can do this up to 16 times. Actually, that would have been 4 times to get 16, which are each 1 bit thick. We can't go any further than that, of course, because there are only 16 bits. There are only 16 layers of bits in a block. Of course, we can go thinner if we want to. And then we have a whole bunch of these blocks that we can just place, like any other normal blocks. When you're placing chiseled blocks, they will snap to the Minecraft grid so that the entire block is within a Minecraft block. However, you can change this behavior just by holding down Shift, which will allow you to arbitrarily place it anywhere. Oh, so like if we place it right there, we see that we actually end up in 4 different block spaces, so we kind of have 4 different blocks here. The Chisels and Bits mod also comes with a wrench called Wooden Wrench. It's a very cheap wrench, and it allows you to rotate things, basically. So it'll rotate on the axis that you're clicking on. So you can see that it's spinning it around on the side that I'm clicking on. So if we wanted to turn it this way, we can go from the top. And if we want it to be upside down, we can click it on the side. Or this way. We can also use this on any block that can be rotated. So far, we've only been chiseling blocks. This is the chiseled fluid bit tank, which you can basically take a bucket of any fluid, then you can right-click on it, and it will take bits of that fluid and put them in your bit bag or your inventory or whatever. And now we have chiseled water. Nice. Which is really nice if you want to make some custom fountains or something like that. Or maybe you just want water to drip. There, look at that. The last tool I want to look at is the tape measure. The tape measure obviously allows you to measure things. And as you might guess, if you right click and hold, you can see that an area gets selected and you can let go. And then you can see the entire dimensions of that area. So this is 4 meters and 13 bits by 1 meter and 12 bits. So this is really helpful if you want to find the distance between different things or to section off your blocks. And you can, as you can see, you can have multiple selections going at once. You can have very, very large selections. And if you shift right click, they will all disappear. And again, just like the other tools, if you hold down the Alt key, you have lots of different options. So we can measure distance, which is just a linear distance. We were measuring bits before, so that's the default. It's just going to show us a 3-dimensional measurement of bits. So if we go up here, we can see the entire length, width, and height of that area. If we want to see a straight line distance, then we go that way. So we've got 16 by 16. Of course, we can do Pythagorean's theorem to figure out the distance from there to there. Or... oh wait, that was the wrong one. Distance. Isn't that what I selected? Yeah, there we go. Okay. So 1 meter by 1 meter is also, or the diagonal of 1 meter by 1 meter is 1 meter and 6 bits. Hooray! We can also change the color. So if we are measuring a whole bunch of things at once and we want to be able to tell the difference between all of them, we can say... let's measure the distance. Well, the block distance, of course, would be full blocks, so that's not going to give us the bits. So it's going to like snap to the blocks. So we can go up here and we're going to be 1 block high. So if we want to see the full block size of this doghouse, well, actually we can't really because we can't click on the top of that, but we can just add one. So it's 3 by 3 by 3 meters, as we can see. And then maybe we want to have another measurement at the same time, but we don't want to mix them up, so we're going to make it orange. What's the size of this door? And we're going to measure this in bits. Maybe we just want to know the opening of the door, so we're going to click there and go to there. So finally, I want to go over a couple of little tips and tricks. First of all, when you're looking at a block like this, it's not always easy to tell what this block is made of. We're looking at this one, it says chiseled rock marble, but that doesn't look like marble. How come it's telling us it's marble? Well, that's because most of this block is made of marble. So when we look at it, it's telling us it's a marble block. The one probe is. But that's because we're looking at the entire block. If we're holding a bit in our hand, if we're holding a chisel in our hand, we can see what that exact bit is. So you can see chiseled bit, cherry wood planks. And if we go down here, we can see the marble, we can see the white block, we can see what each one of these bits is. We can also chisel glowstone or other full blocks that emit light. So let's say we just grab that entire chunk of glowstone, and I'm going to turn on my light levels so that we can see how much light we're emitting. If we can make custom blocks with glowstone in them that will emit light. However, the amount of light that they emit will be based on how much glowstone is in them. So if we just put 1 bit of glowstone, not a whole lot's going to happen, right? Put that much glowstone, we've got a light level of 1 there, and all the blocks around it are still dark. Now we're at 2, so let's just do an entire plane here, and we can see that we now have a full light. You can have any level of light up to full glowstone, and you can make custom lanterns, whatever, man. You can do any kind of lighting. You can make custom tiki torches. 256 bits of light if you want the full glowstone light. Also, Chisels and Bits has a full array of key bindings that you can set to anything. So you can set any of the modes to a keybind. So if you use connected plane a lot or something like that, you can set that to a keybind so that you don't always have to go into the radial menu. Of course, you can change the key binding for the radial menu, which by default is L menu. That would be the Alt key or Option key if you're on a Mac. You can also shortcut the undo command. In the next episode, we're going to take a quick look at flat colored blocks. That is a mod that's going to allow you to create basically blocks of any color, or mix lots and lots of colors if you're using Chisels and Bits, of course, of glass. So you can make like stained glass windows, of lit blocks so that you can make custom lanterns and lights of any color that you could possibly imagine. And then after that, like I said, we're going to take a look at some builds that I've done and some techniques that I use. We're going to basically look at some specific techniques that I use in my builds that can kind of help you use Chisels and Bits to the max. And then I would like to be able to showcase some of your builds if you have some that you want to show. If you do, you can post them to Imgur and place a link in the comments to this video or one of the other videos in the series, or post them to Twitter and tag me in Twitter, and I'll have my Twitter handle below in the description, and possibly some other ways for you to get things to me. If you do have any questions at all about Chisels and Bits or anything else, or even if you just want to say hello, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. If there's anything particular from any one of my builds that you would like to make sure that I talk about and demonstrate in the future video, please let me know that too. And if you did enjoy this, don't forget to click the like button and to join me next time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.